Hello everybody, welcome home. Our very first sermon on this side is going to be about forgiveness. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. Been thinking about it over the last week quite a bit. I've been in the book of Genesis in my studies, and the book has really come alive for me. It's really brought out some beauty and a very rich text this time that I hadn't even noticed before because I was too busy at the nuts and bolts to see the true spirit of it. Okay? But after examining it again, I've really taken some bits of it to heart. I mean, there's some beautiful stuff in there. Forgiveness is important because without it, we can have no lasting peace. Without it, we cannot show true and sincere love for each other. Without it, it'll rot our souls if we have it, okay? Forgiveness is what sets us free. It's what allows us to move on with our life. It's what allows us to take something that was a difficult situation and turn it into something that can heal, something that can reach out. Forgiveness gives us the opportunity to take a terror and turn it into a testimony, to take a fear and turn it into faith. Forgiveness is the vessel that allows us to change our world. We will not have anything like the kind of glory that we can have on this planet until we leave the old adage, eye for eye, tooth for tooth behind. Let's face it, we'd all be toothless and blind. And no, I didn't come up with that on my own, I wish I did. Forgiveness is what allows us to not accept things so much as to deal with them on a practical level. You know, I don't have to accept the fact that person X harmed me and allow them to do it again, but I can forgive them, move on. Okay? Now, the absolute beauty of the world's religions has a lot to say about forgiveness. And the further this week that I dug into it, the more and more I found. There is a treasure trove of information out there on forgiveness. From the Baha'i to the Shinto, from Taoism to Buddhism, from Hinduism all the way down to your tribal religions. I mean, forgiveness is everywhere. There's some really great examples in recent light of people who have really lived what I would consider the true spirit of forgiveness in their daily lives. Look at Nelson Mandela. The man was locked away for, 40 years? I mean, it was a long time. And ended up becoming the man that saved his country. You know, there's all sorts of great information, and more than that, of life experience, because that's what we're playing for. We're not playing for the knowledge up here. We're playing for what's in here. Okay? If we can transform our hearts, our minds will follow. Sometimes some of us have to go about it by first understanding it on an intellectual level and then being able to proceed into a spiritual level. But the heart, goal, the real meaning of life here is so that we can get it here and here. We want it in our head and our heart, okay? We want to live this. We want it to become part of our everyday life. We want it to become part of our way we treat each other, part of the way we think about each other, part of the way we behave towards each other. We want it to be part of the way that we heal areas that are hurting. I mean, Israel and Palestine right now, Lord have mercy. If they could just practice a spirit of forgiveness, then the last 4,500, 5,000 years of Hatfields and McCoys would be over with. Okay? Nobody is right or wrong when it comes to forgiving. And how can I say that? You might wonder. You might say, well, you know, if somebody steals from me, they're wrong. And I'm right to be angry with them. I'm right to hold on to a grudge. I'm right to hold on to a resentment. Well, you are halfway correct there. If somebody steals from you, they are wrong. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay? But here's the big one. You are not right necessarily to hold on to it. Now, you are allowed to do whatever you want to. You have the freedom that God gave you, which He values more than anything else in this world. You have the freedom to hold on to that anger, that resentment, that pain, that hurt for the rest of your natural life. Just be forewarned that no good will come of it. Okay? Now, as a result of the way that these little video sessions of ours are going, I didn't realize, but I can only make these videos for 15 minutes at a time on YouTube until I get my cell phone working again. Okay? So, until then, I'm going to have to make this particular sermon in 3 sections. And I'm not saying we're going to take up a full 45 minutes. We might, I don't know. But I'm going to probably have to make it into 3 sections now. This first one is just the introductory stuff. And in the next one, I'm going to try to get through the Tanakh, the Torah, the book of Genesis, where it talks about Jacob and Esau and Joseph and his brothers. In the 3rd section, I'm going to try to get our discussions of Christ, what He has to say, and Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And then close with some final remarks. I'm sorry that it has to be like that for now, but I'm working on it, okay? But we still have time in this section, so why don't we start Jacob and Esau now? Okay? So it's time for stories. I just love story times. Jacob and Esau come from a long line of really holy people. You have the big guy, you have Abraham, you have the man that was taken from his land, and God told him, hey, you know what? Get to stepping, and I'll tell you when you get there. Abraham's like, all right, no problem, cool. And he goes. Abraham has a wife named Sarah. By the way, I also have a cat named Sarah. But anyway, Abraham's wife named Sarah. They're old. I mean, she's already gone through menopause. She is, the Bible says, I believe the exact words are used up. You know, she has passed her prime. And her husband is no spring chicken either. So Abraham and Sarah, in a very old age, we're talking like 80s and 90s, give birth to Isaac. Isaac, in time, leaves the family nest, goes and finds himself the love of his life, and her name is Rebecca. And Rebecca gives birth. Now, Isaac and Rebecca are truly in love with each other. They've loved each other from the first time they saw each other. And when Rebecca gives birth, she's having a really hard time with this pregnancy. She doesn't know she has twins. Okay? She gives birth and one comes out and he's furry like a little monkey. They call him Esau. And the other one comes out and he's smooth as a baby's butt, not a hair on him. And they call him Jacob. He's called Jacob because he's grabbing at the heel of his brother. Okay, and Esau is basically from the Hebrew word hairy, essentially. Now, time goes on, and Jacob and Esau have all sorts of quarrels with each other. One of the worst is that Esau becomes a daddy's boy. Jacob becomes a mama's boy. Esau likes to hunt. Jacob likes to shepherd. He likes to tend the flocks. Esau goes out hunting one day so he can get dad some food. Jacob stays behind and makes himself some soup. They call it porridge or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, make some soup. We'll call it Campbell's for all intents and purposes. So, when Esau comes back from hunting, he is starving to death. I mean, the man's been outside running after these wild animals trying to get dad something to eat. He never really cared about his birthright, but the birthright's a pretty big deal. And he comes to Jacob and he's like, Jacob, man, I am starving to death. You have got to feed me. Feed me. And Jacob's like, no problem, brother. I'll let you have some Campbell's. But before I do, you have got to give me your birthright. Well, Esau hated his birthright. Didn't give a rat's behind about it. So he's like, all right, no problem. Take the birthright. Give me food. So Esau sells his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob's a tricky little devil. And come to find out, that is not the first time that he ends up taking advantage of his brother. And for the brilliant conclusion of Jacob and Esau, boom, 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 please join us again in Section 2. Section 2. Section